Welcome to the Balanced Hustle podcast. I'm your host, Lindsay Sherman, fitness coach for burnt out perfectionists. If you're ready to break free from overwhelm, simplify your nutrition, and make fitness finally work for you instead of against you, you're in the right place. Each week, we'll dive into easy strategies to balance your health with your busy life. Let's hustle for balance, not burnout. Grab a seat and let's dive in. Hello, welcome back to the podcast, or welcome if you are new here. I'm very excited to have you. So this week, we are going to be talking a little bit of girl talk this week. I felt like we did some girl talk last week, but this week we're going to do some more. So we are going to have a little chat, and I'm going to try to do this before my husband gets home because one, it's girl talk, and two, once he gets home, he'll want to eat dinner and hang out, and so this is my motivation to get this done before he gets home and to talk to you guys while I have some quiet time, while the dogs are currently not barking at me. I think they're napping in the living room, so I think we're okay for now. Hopefully I'm not going to jinx it. So girl talk today, like I said, so I posted today on my story on Instagram, and today is the Wednesday before Thanksgiving, just for your reference. So I posted on my Instagram story, and I wanted to know what you guys wanted to hear today. And because tomorrow's Thanksgiving, I thought maybe a holiday survival kind of guide, staying fit and sane this season might be good. Or possibly behind the scenes, how I do it all, working full time. And while both of those did get votes, and I will be covering probably not maybe the holiday survival, maybe around Christmas, but I'll definitely be doing the behind the scenes of how I do it all working full time. I think I'll do that next episode because that sounds like it might be really helpful for a lot of us that are stressed out, burnout perfectionists, if you're like me. So I'm planning to do that for the next episode because that got more votes than the holiday survival. But then I did get, I put a third option on there that was, or something else. Tell me something else that you want to hear. And I did get a suggestion about wanting to talk about going to the gym while you are on your period, finding the motivation to not skip the gym during your period and not get so stressed, and kind of mental health, mindset, motivation things just during our cycles and while we are battling our periods, while we're battling bloating, possibly gaining some weight, eating more, having those cravings. Always a constant battle that we get to have as women, right? And I have this discussion with my husband all the time, which is really not a discussion. It's more me telling him how I feel and making him listen to me, because that's what a relationship is, okay? But I have this discussion with him all the time and how girls really don't have it. It's just not fair. It's really not fair. I mean, guys have everything so much easier in life. I mean, just from getting dressed in the morning, getting ready for bed, they have simple routines, they have simple outfits. You can, if you're a girl, don't get me wrong, I'm pretty simple when it comes to girly stuff. But everything takes me twice as long, I swear. And I think our brains are also wired differently. Like, we're wired, at least if you're like me, to just think about... I don't want to say that guys don't think. I need to be careful here. But just think about things a little bit more and have more going on that we are balancing in our minds at once, if that makes sense. Like, for example, when we leave for Thanksgiving tomorrow, I have it in my head when we are eating dinner at each of our families. We're going to 2 houses tomorrow, so I have it in my head when we're eating dinner at each house, when we should leave, when I should start getting ready. I will make sure that the dogs are all taken care of for the day, that they have all their food and all their treats. I will make sure that I have the food that I am bringing prepped and made and ready, planning my outfit, doing my hair, all those things. And again, as we're walking out the door, I'll make sure that the doors are locked, the lights are off, kind of all those little things. My husband, he's going hunting in the morning. That's all he knows. That is all he knows for tomorrow. Like, he doesn't know. He knows where we're going. Doubt he knows what time we're going. I'll have to remind him. He knows he wants to go hunting in the morning. And his life is pretty simple. And maybe it's just my husband. My husband's very laid back. But I've noticed the trend with other guys as well, that there's just kind of less going on. And not like, oh gosh, I gotta be so careful. Not less going on in their heads, like that they're not intelligent, but just, I think we're more detail oriented as women, and I think we worry about more things. I think we get anxious about more things, and we have kind of a caring and more caring nature that lends us to these traits, right? So I think that's more difficult being a woman, just mentally, being a woman mentally. And then also we have the physical things too. So obviously, like getting our periods every single month, it's so unfair. Like last night, now I've always gotten bad cramps with my periods ever since middle school when I first got my period. And so last night I started getting cramps around 2 in the afternoon when I was at work. So I was at work for 3 hours with cramps. I did not have any medicine with me, and I just toughed it out, because even though I get really bad cramps, I'm just so used to toughing it out. If I don't have anything on me, sometimes I'll go get something, but it was the afternoon. I'm like, I'll just tough it out. So toughed it out at work for 3 hours with cramps. And of course, when you get cramps and you're at work or at school in a public setting, you have to kind of pretend it's not happening. At least in most cases, right? You're not just openly talking about it with your boss or your friends or your coworkers. Maybe you are with some friends, but you kind of just have to pretend it's not happening. So, which is really funny when the guys in your life are struggling, saying that they're struggling with certain things at school or at work, and like they're having a hard time with something, and you're just sitting there and you're like, my uterus has been tearing itself apart for 3 hours, and I have been sitting here with a polite smile on my face. Maybe you don't have a polite smile on your face, but I have been sitting here toughing it out, and like, you just told me you were tired, that kind of thing. So yeah, it's tough being a girl. So cramps started around 2 p.m. and then lasted until about 2 a.m. when I finally got to sleep this morning. And that was with taking medicine, with walking a little bit. I tried to walk a little bit, but you don't really want to when you are on the first day of your cycle, if it's similar to mine. And then heating pad. Heating pad is usually always my number one best friend. I need that every month. It saves me. So had a heating pad on. I was drinking water, taking medicine, just trying to push through it. And again, I didn't fall asleep until 2 a.m. when they finally eased off. And if you're a girl, like if you get cramps similar to mine, like there are no breaks. Unless the medicine starts to kick in or your heating pad works, it's just nonstop, right? So I tell my husband all these things, and I tell him how lucky he is, and I tell him how hard my life is, and I tell him all of these things, right? But it's hard not to feel, it's like I feel like I'm complaining, because I am complaining, but there is a certain point where we obviously have to live with this as women. There's a certain point when we have to work on our coping mechanisms and how to get through things, right? And I've developed a lot over the years that have helped me get through this time of the month, and as well as just being more aware of what's going on throughout my cycle on a monthly basis, that have really helped me with this also. Now, I still do get bad cramps, obviously, like I just said. Usually for like the first like 12 hours, I would guess, probably about the first 12 hours, and then it starts to ease off, which mine did used to be much worse. I used to have them for probably 2 or 3 days, and then they would ease off, and my period would last about a week. Usually it used to be exactly a week, and then now it's about 3 or 4 days, which is nice. And there was a period of time where I didn't get my period at all when I was on birth control, on the pill. I didn't get my period at all for like a year in college, and while that felt really nice not to have to worry about that, I don't believe it's super healthy not to have your period, and it was tough when I got it back, just remembering all of the things that come with it. But mentally, believe it or not, I felt a lot more like me, and I felt a lot better after coming off of that. So that's a story for another day, and that's a whole topic in itself. But what I want to talk about today is just tips and how you can kind of work with your cycle, and, you know, just being able to stay motivated, to go to the gym, to keep working on your fitness goals. I want to dive into all that after, I had to give you a super long intro. I love to gab, so let's talk about it. So number one thing that I would recommend doing, if you are not doing already and you are somebody who is cycling regularly, or even irregularly, but if you are getting a period, I would highly recommend tracking. And I know that's pretty simple advice, but if you are not tracking, I want you to download an app or write it in a notebook or on your phone somewhere. Start tracking when you are getting your period. You can track how you're feeling during different times of the month. I basically right now just track when I get my period, and then I kind of just stay aware of how I'm feeling. Now, why I recommend this, and I'll tell you the app that I use too. I've used a few apps. The app I use right now is called Lively, and what I like about it is, number one, it's pretty. I'm a big fan of like apps that are pretty, and some apps are just not good looking. So I like that it's pretty, first of all, and second of all, my favorite thing about it is it gives you basically tips for different stages of your cycle. So it'll tell you tips for what you can do, tips for what you can eat, and tips for how you can move during your cycle that the app deems appropriate or helpful during each phase. And I'm not a scientist. I don't know what all their science behind everything is, but I feel like it's pretty helpful. So for example, right now I'm obviously on the second day of my cycle, in the menstrual phase. So if we just look at like things to do, one suggestion's like alone time. Obviously, I'm not super social during the first couple days of my cycle. Like, I just went to Walmart. I went to Walmart to get a few things, and I felt just so socially awkward, and I don't know. I'm not blaming it all on my cycle, but I just did not want to talk to anybody. And there were people like in the aisle where I needed to go, and normally I would have been like, "Oh, like excuse me," like, and just politely said like I need to get to like that one thing. But I just didn't want to talk to anybody. I circled around like 3 times until the people had left, and they were just lingering, like having a conversation, not even looking at the stuff in the aisle that I needed to look at. And it was just really annoying to me. But long story short, alone time definitely feels fitting during this stage of my cycle. So self-care rituals, Epsom salt baths, warm baths, deep breathing, napping, avoid tight deadlines, it says. It even recommends comedy shows. It says avoid waxing if you do that, rest, and it gives you all things that you can do. And then again, there's things that you can eat that I guess are supposed to be helpful. One of them, it also says like hydration is on there, and then ways to move. So like for me, it's recommending Pilates this week as a way to move. So that could be really helpful to you if, number one, you just want to understand the phases of your cycle more. And number two, if you were looking for tips on, what to do, what to eat, how to move during each phase of your cycle, highly recommend it. It's called Lively, again. So I really like that. And as I've started to track my cycle, and I've been tracking for a while now, I have noticed that I definitely feel like in my follicular phase, if you're familiar with that, I feel so motivated. I want to start all of the projects. I want to start a podcast and write a book and start a third business, and I'm just spewing things off, but I want to do everything in my follicular phase, right? I want to do nothing in my menstrual phase. In my luteal phase, I'm starting to get a little bit grumpy. So if you know those things ahead of time, it can really help you plan and understand what's coming and also what you're experiencing as you're going through it. Because for a while I didn't understand the different phases, and I didn't understand that for about 2 weeks out of the month, you're not having a good week. You're not having a good time when you're a woman. And that's just because of how our hormone levels are changing throughout the month. But it doesn't mean that those 2 weeks, and I'm specifically talking about the weeks in your luteal phase, which is where you're leading up to your period, and then the week of your period, your menstrual phase. Those are obviously the 2 weeks where we are experiencing those highs and lows, maybe more anxiety, maybe a little bit more lonely feelings, sad feelings, not so much motivation. Again, that's 2 weeks out of the month. So half of every month, we kind of have to battle these things. So just knowing, again, is the first step. Because when I didn't used to track, I would be in my luteal phase and I would kind of be grumpy with people, and I want to understand why I was short with people and why I just wasn't happy, and I would sometimes break down crying, and people would ask what's wrong. My husband would ask what's wrong, and I'd just say I don't know. Now I know. Now I can look at my phone and say, okay, I'm in the luteal phase. That is why I feel like this. And I don't have to wait to get my period for me to be like, oh, yeah, now it all makes sense. So that's my biggest tip. That's a huge tip that I have, is just starting to understand where you're at. And then once we do that, we can kind of understand how we can prevent some things from happening. So prevent some of those emotions from happening and kind of feed ourselves a little bit more love during those times of the month, feed ourselves a little bit more self-care, the things that make us happier, that make us feel better. We can also understand that maybe this is the time where it's okay to rest and not beat myself up so much. Just kind of preparing and giving ourselves some grace during those times really helps. Now, when it comes to exercising, especially during your period, I definitely recommend keeping that movement going. There's been a lot of talk about cycle syncing out there, where you can basically sync your workouts to your period and have, lighter weeks during your period, and kind of structuring your training around your cycle. And you could do this in kind of more of a proactive way, so planning that ahead of time, or doing it in more of a reactive way, and just kind of reacting to how your body feels on each day. Now, what I will say is that I don't really believe in cycle syncing your workouts to the point where you are just kind of taking the week off of your period every single week, or just doing less. I don't want to say doing less, but kind of scaling everything back that entire week, because what I'm saying is that we basically short ourselves a full week every month of training and movement if we do this. So I definitely still recommend getting in the gym while you are on your period, staying active in your workouts, and not just kind of taking that week off every month. But we definitely can work with your symptoms that you're experiencing at the same time. So what I do is typically, like I said, the first 12, sometimes the 24 hours of my cycle, I'm out. Like, I am done. I am under that heating pad. I'm watching movies. I'm drinking hot chocolate. Like, I do not bother me. I don't want to move. I don't want to be in the gym. Now, after that, as soon as I start to feel a little bit better and those cramps go away, I want to move. And I found that moving has really, really helped me so much. And not only because it does, number one, help with cramps. So if you are kind of on the lighter end, if you are just coming off of having super heavy cramps in the beginning, or you have lighter cramps to begin with, I have found that moving, walking, working out makes a huge difference in how that feels and totally minimizes cramps for me. And what I've also found is that getting in the gym and getting those endorphins, getting those happy feelings, right, all those good vibes, is also huge in feeling better during this time of the month too. And I would stress that it's almost more important to get in the gym the week before your period happens. And again, that's why tracking is so essential too. So during that week before your period happens, the luteal phase, where you start to get those symptoms, you start to get stressed and unmotivated and kind of grumpy at the world. And I'm not picking on you, I'm picking on myself, because I know how it is. I'm grumpy for no reason for a full week before I even get my period, and then I'm grumpy because I have my period, right? So getting in the gym is going to help your mindset so much, and it's going to be easier to get there the week before your period because you don't obviously have your period yet, right? So it's just going to be more of a mental thing than a physical thing. But if you remember your why and why you're going and how you're going to feel afterwards, and just know that you are doing this for you, use that to get you there. And also, hey, if somebody else asked, if your mom asked, your partner asked, the kids asked, say, hey, you're going to like the version of me a lot better this week if I just get in the gym for, 30 minutes, an hour, whatever it is. Just say, I need this for me this week. And then I can come back and, be a really good partner or family member to you, because I just need to de-stress right now and I need to take care of my mind. So again, that would be the week before. And then the week of, I would take that time off the first couple days. Do not push yourself. Do not pressure yourself to get in the gym. Do not beat yourself up. Give yourself some grace. The dogs are going nuts. Give yourself some grace, and then get back in the gym when you start to feel a little bit better. If you feel like you need to move to feel like you are doing something, do some stretching, do some walking. It can help so much, but I don't personally push myself to keep up the intensity, to keep up the workouts, at least, especially those first couple days, because I'm just giving myself grace and I'm not going to lose my progress within a couple days, especially if I've kept up with this during the week beforehand, right? So that's what I would suggest during the week of. And then also, like I said, I wouldn't just take that whole week as a wash, because you are missing out on a week of workouts each month if you do that. But you can definitely lighten the weights, change the movement up a little bit from your normal routine, if that's what it takes to help you just feel like you can get through a workout. It's more important to me that you get there, you get through a workout, you keep your momentum, that sense of accomplishment, than if you get in there and you just push weights the same as you do every other week of the month, right? So that's where I stand on that. And then, like I said, incorporating lighter movement, like yoga or stretching on top of your workouts can be really beneficial, and just to help you recover, help you ease up on those symptoms. That can be huge as well. Just adding it in, sprinkling it in on top of everything. And then when you are training, especially if you're going to a gym or like a public place, I would recommend finding your power outfit for that time. And there's going to be two different types of people in this world. So the person that I am wearing like all black. I am wearing something that I'm comfortable in, putting a hat on, headphones on. Like, that is what I'm feeling during that time. And I have, a specific playlist that's going to push me through this. So that is kind of where I'm at. Now, you could be the opposite, and you could want to put on an outfit that kind of makes you feel really good, maybe is a little bit more revealing. Totally up to you and how you feel. One is going to just kind of help you put your head down, power through your workouts, get through things feeling comfortable. The other side of things, the other outfit may be something where you need to feel like you look really good, feel like you're confident to get you in there. So determine what that is for you. And that's a huge thing for me any day of the month that I'm training, is just finding that outfit that makes me feel good and suits the mood that I'm in. Because if I show up and I don't like what I'm wearing, or I don't feel like I look good, I'm not inspired by what I'm wearing, it's proven that I will just have a worse workout, and that's a real thing. So that is another tip I have for you. And then if we're going to talk about training, we have to talk about nutrition also. So we really want to support ourselves in nutrition during this time. So and I just had, where did my notes go here? Okay, so eating the right foods to help ease your symptoms, help ease cramps, bloating, fatigue. So here's some things that we can focus on during this time. So iron-rich foods. Iron-rich foods will help combat fatigue and also replenish the iron that you lose during menstruation. So spinach, kale, other leafy greens, lentils, beans, chickpeas, lean red meat or chicken, and tofu. Those are all examples of some iron-rich foods. And then also anti-inflammatory foods can be really helpful to help reduce cramps, help reduce the bloating. So foods like fatty fish, like salmon or mackerel. I don't know how you say. I don't eat a lot of fish. So that's an example. Walnuts, flax seeds, chia seeds, berries, especially blueberries, strawberries, and turmeric also. Those are all anti-inflammatory foods that could really help. And then also, the third food category that we want to look at are magnesium-rich foods. And along with magnesium, you can also look into supplementing with magnesium. That is something that has been proven to help ease muscle cramps, help you sleep also. A lot of people will jump to melatonin for sleep, but magnesium can actually be so much better, and can also help with this too. So magnesium rich foods, whether you are supplementing with a supplement or our favorite, right, dark chocolate, almonds, cashews, pumpkin seeds, avocado, bananas, those can all be really helpful. And I'm not saying that you can't eat your ice cream, right? Like, I want ice cream and I want, some extra treats and stuff during that time of the month. You can definitely do that, but then support the rest of your daily diet with some of these foods that can also help as well. Also, I'm going to say also 15 times today, aren't I? Complex carbohydrates are another group there. Probiotic rich foods, things like that. So complex carbohydrates, because they can stabilize your energy levels and will also help curb some of those sugar cravings if you're having them. That looks like sweet potatoes, oats and whole grains, apples and pears. And then probiotic rich foods would be things like yogurt, kimchi, sauerkraut, kefir, things like that. Basically, if this is overwhelming to you, and I know that it really can be, look at those whole foods. Look at getting whole foods into your diet. You can definitely, like I said, have your treats, but eating pizza all week is not going to help you feel any better, right? So looking at getting those whole foods in, that is the easiest way to go about it if everything I just said overwhelms you, right? So getting those whole foods in, and foods that you might want to avoid could be salty foods, because those can cause more bloating. Sugary treats, like I said, I'm not telling you to cut out all your sugary treats, but they can lead to energy crashes if you have too many, which obviously, as you know, if you have a lot of fatigue and you're more tired, that is not going to help with that. And caffeine possibly could worsen cramps as well, increase anxiety, and alcohol can also be one that you might want to avoid, because it could increase your symptoms and also dehydrate you as well. So those are just some foods, some nutrition advice. If you also want to start adding on kind of some nutrition support during this time of the month. And then the last thing I want to touch on is just mindset, right? So obviously, we've already mentioned that our hormones are everywhere. Mindset can be really difficult to battle with during this time. We can see the scale go up. We can see those fluctuations. We might not look, or we might not like how we're looking in the mirror because, again, we've got bloating. We've got all kinds of things going on. This is not the week for you to weigh yourself every day on the scale, to take your progress pictures, to take your measurements. This is not the week for you to do that, okay? This is the week where you skip that and you come back next week. This is like your bye week, okay? This is where you have things going on that are out of the norm, right? And it's also the reason why they do most tests on males. They hardly ever test certain things on females, because our bodies are so hard to keep all the variables stable, right? It's like when you do a science experiment. Remember when they taught you in high school that you have to have, like the independent variable, and then basically you have to make sure that none of your variables are changing except for the one that you're experimenting on, right? And with women, our variables are changing all the time, right? Depending on where you're in your cycle, all kinds of different things with hormones, things like that. And that's why they do most studies on men, because they are just easier to study. There's less variables happening. They cycle through their hormones on a daily basis. And Yeah, so where was I going with that? Yeah, this is not a time to measure progress, to beat yourself up about progress. Too many things are changing. It's the same reason why they tell you to weigh yourself. If you don't know this, here's another tip. Weigh yourself in the mornings before you've eaten any food, before you've had any water, preferably with as little clothes on as possible, right? We're getting rid of all of those variables, and we're getting you at the same consistent time each morning, every time that you weigh in. There's not a whole bunch of other things out of the normal going on, whether you've ate 2 pieces of breakfast pizza for breakfast, or the next day you have a protein shake, and you weigh yourself after lunch, you have all this other food and water and everything going on. We're keeping those variables consistent. So this is kind of your outlier of the month, and this is the month where you just don't beat yourself up about things changing. I posted on Instagram, I think it was about a week or 2 ago, a graph of one of my clients' weight loss. And if you haven't seen that, go over to my Instagram and take a look. It's a graph of her weight loss. And what you'll see is that her weight is constantly moving up and down. But over time, the trend is downward. And she is definitely consistently losing weight. But she has ups and downs all the time, right? This is a week where you're going to see ups and downs. So what you want to do, especially if you are tracking your weight, you're trying to lose weight, things like that, you want to try to focus on the bigger picture and not use this week as an indicator that you've, put on weight, lost a bunch of weight. It's probably not going to stick. Things are probably going to change when you finish your cycle. Or this time during your cycle. So again, this is not the time for playing those mental games with yourself at all. So I hope that these tips helped you. We talked about, tracking, getting in the habit of tracking, finding out where you are in your cycle, tips for training, how to train, when to train, the importance of training, and kind of how you can prepare ahead of time, and then also have room for being a little reactive too, and reacting to just what you are being thrown with how your body feels at the time, and go with that. And like I said, it's just important to keep your momentum, keep moving, even if it's not your 100%, right? Because it's probably not going to be. Now it could be though. I have had times where I've gone in to the gym where I've been on my period. I've had some of my best lifts ever. So you might surprise yourself too, but you're never going to know if you don't show up. And again, give yourself some grace. You don't have to push yourself to show up on the days that you feel your worst. But definitely try to get in there. Remember why you're showing up. Remember it's for your mental health as well. And kind of just try to keep that motivation going. Motivation isn't always going to be there. That's the tricky thing about motivation. You kind of have to manufacture it sometimes and just convince yourself that you are motivated. And if you can't do that, it's all a mental game. It's all mental game. If you can't do that, sometimes you just have to show up for 5 minutes. If you've ever heard of the 5-minute rule, you just show up for 5 minutes, tell yourself that's all you have to do, and if after 5 minutes you're not feeling it, you can go home. I've done that before. And 99% of the time, after 5 minutes, you'll want to stick around. You'll want to finish the workout. You've driven there. You're feeling better once you get moving, and you've already put your outfit on and your shoes on and your music's going, and you're ready to finish your workout. Now, I've also had times where I've given myself the 5-minute rule, and I have gone home. And I'll be honest, I didn't feel bad about it because I showed up, I put in the work, I walked, warmed up for 5 minutes or so, and it just wasn't happening for me that day, and I went home. Stayed in my routine, stayed in my schedule, kept my momentum, but I listened to my body and my mind that day. So those things are totally okay too. So that is kind of what we went over with training, talked about nutrition a little bit, kind of touched on all of the things. So let me know if you like these kinds of girl chats, if this was helpful to you. If you have any other questions, thoughts, leave me a comment. Comments and ratings really help the podcast out. But you can also find me over on Instagram at Lindsay Sherman _fitness, and we can chat over there too. New podcast episodes are coming out now every week, every Tuesday. I'm going to say Tuesday/Wednesday. Today's obviously Wednesday. So I try to stick to Tuesdays, but they usually happen on Wednesdays if Tuesdays gets a little crazy. So I will see you next week for the next one. Next week we will be talking about how I do everything while working a full-time job, while coaching on top of that, how I schedule everything, all of my hacks and tips that I use on a daily basis to do it all without burning myself out, because we've been there and we're not going back. So I will see you all next week. Thanks for tuning in.